episode 18, Beyond the Grip of the Gods. It's your boy Icon with some DC TV, and it's Rocket time. We're going through all the OGs, and Rocket's storyline is up next. And I'm happy about that because that means they're saving Nightwing for last. And because they're saving Nightwing for last, that means Wally's coming back at the end of the season, but more on that towards the end. So we are going to temporarily skip over the beginning portion of this episode because I have a lot of thoughts on that I will also save towards the end. So this episode starts where Rocket, Jay Garrick, who came out of retirement to join the Justice League, and Forager, who's no longer Fred Bug with two G's. The three of them, they're on their way to New Genesis to have a peace treaty to broker peace between the new gods and with Earth. Rocket's feeling some kind of way because of some stuff that's going on with her family, but she's also the person who's supposed to lead, like the negotiations, so she kind of feeling some way about that as well. When they get to New Genesis, they're met by Orion. Orion is all in every adaptation, every anime, every cartoon, whatever. Orion is always an asshole, and then this one's no different. His asshole behavior doesn't escape, like Rocket. Like every time he says something, every time he does something, Rocket always gives him the look, which I thought was pretty interesting. But while they're on New Genesis and they're meeting the new gods, and everybody's like, "Yo, why is this bug here?" Another bug from like the lower levels or the mountains, if you will, went into the new gods facility and stole a piece of technology. It wasn't for any particular purpose, but the gun, the gun, whatever that they stole from New Genesis, it basically, when you take it back to the mountains and shoot it at the crystals that exist in the mountains, it lights up the crystals, and the bugs like the bright lights. That's why they wanted the gun. But Orion is just like, oh, someone has stolen something from us. And then, Rocket ends up going with them. Like they go down there, they try to see if they can find, like who stole the item. But then they find out like, oh, it's a bug who's like someone broke it into the armory or whatever. And then Rocket and Orion chase them. And then we find out that, it was a bug, but then they're just like, oh, then Forager's just like, oh, we must go to the mountains, to find the bugs in the mountains. So then everybody goes to the mountains to look for the bugs. We do find out that Malaca Flack is McGann's brother. He's there, and he's apparently working for Darkseid. He sabotaged the gun, and he was also, turning himself into homeless people, slaves, whatever, people from Apocalypse. And he's basically he's tricking people into being reprogrammed by Darkseid's minions. Malaca ends up having a conversation, not really with Darkseid, and then Darkseid's minion, because Darkseid had his back turned, hands behind his back like a G, his minion ends up telling Malaca, he said that I want you and this other guy, I think his name was Piranha or something like that, to team up with this other kid, and he said, I want you to do a job for me, and whatever this kid tells you to do, you listen as though his words are my words. They asked the kid what his name was, and then he said Lorzod, and I was like, Zod, that's interesting. But then he was black, that's what kind of threw me off. So then the three of them disappear, but the Zod thing, like I said, did hang around in the back of my mind, but more on that later. So then we go back to the conference. Well, now we're in the mountains. Everybody goes to the mountains, they end up talking to the bugs. Forager ended up talking to the female bug that stole the gun, and Forager, convinced her to give them the gun back, just to broker peace. But at that moment, the fact that Malaca had sabotaged the gun made the gun go haywire. It started shooting off in different places, and then Rocket used her bubble power to protect the bugs, protect the children, protect her teammates, and and she used it to cover the gun. And then that's when we find out like Orion is claustrophobic, and then Orion started spazzing. For some reason, when he got blasted by the gun, his eyes immediately turned red. And when his eyes turned red, he started going insane and started running amok. And then, Rocket had trapped him in the bubble. And then that's when the light guy was just like, oh, you got to let him out because he's claustrophobic. But then they used the mother box to try to calm him and calm his mind. So later, then they got the gun back. Nothing happened to the bugs. Everything's all good. They go back to New Genesis, and then Orion was talking to his mama, and then he was just like, "Oh, like the anger from my biological father still resides within me." And then when he said that, when Orion said, and this is very important, when Orion said the DNA from my biological father still resides within me, Rocket made a look on her face, and then she sighed. And now I kind of feel some way about her family situation. Like I said, but we'll get to that in a second. So, so then after that, so after they said that, Rocket was talking to Jay Garrick, and then she's like, I feel some kind of way because she said I got a whole conference that I got to do tomorrow, and now that I know this motherfucker crazy, like Orion be spazzing, she was just like, I got to hold a conference tomorrow, with, and he can pop off at any minute, so she got to worry about that. So Rocket's got some things on her plate, and it's nice to see her in a leadership role with the Justice League, but we'll see what happens when the next episode takes place for that one. Superboy, he's rummaging through the spirit realm or wherever he is, and then while he's rummaging through the spirit realm, he's still seeing his daddy, Lex Luthor. And I'm just going to flat out say this, I was 100% right. Because when he first got there and he saw McGann looked like a solid human being. When he saw Superman, he looked like a solid human being. When Lex Luthor was there, Lex Luthor looked like a solid human being. When he saw Wally was crystallized just like Superboy was and like the girl was. And I said that Wally isn't a figment of Superboy's imagination, because since Wally is shown in a chrysalis form, Wally's actually there. Like, when Wally disappeared at the end of season 2, he ended up in that spirit realm. And this was confirmed because while Superboy was doing what he was doing, thinking that he was the genomorph, the clone of Superman, should he defect from the light, a person came over and touched him, and then he was just like, yo, bro, it was really good. And then he was just like, no, you're hallucinating, you got to snap out of it. And then he's like, how do you know that, how do I know that you're not real? And he said, because I've never seen you before. So why would I make you up if I've never met you before and don't know who you are? He said, everything that you're seeing is part of the hallucinations, but he said, but I'm real. And when he said, I'm real, you're real, the girl you're holding in your arms is real, everyone who looks chrysalis is real. Wally was chrysalis, Wally is real, and Wally will get pulled out of the Phantom Zone. And it even said at the bottom, where, because in Young Justice, they always tell you the date and time and the place and the location everybody is. It said Phantom Zone, so Superboy's basically in the Phantom Zone. And that's when the guy said, he was like, oh, who are you? And then he was like, General Zod. And I was like, oh, shit. So on Young Justice, General Zod is black, and the kid that's with Malaca Flack, who's working with Darkseid, that's General Zod's son. General Zod's son is working with Darkseid, and they're going, in an effort for them to save Superboy and save that girl, they're going to accidentally pull General Zod out of the Phantom Zone, and they're also going to pull Wally out of the Phantom Zone as well. Mark my words, that's what's going to happen in the season finale, but it's only going to take place in Nightwing's story arc, because if you're going to bring back Wally, you might as well do it during Nightwing's story arc, because it makes more sense to have Nightwing be the person involved. And, with the Nightwing story arc, it's going to be him asking Zatanna to help him, get Connor back so they can try to figure his spirit and blah, blah, blah. So that was it. That's how that particular episode ended. So, back to Rocket. In the beginning of the episode, in previous Young Justice seasons, we found out that Rocket was supposed to get married. They never said who her husband was, but we assumed it was Icon. That was season 2. In season 3, we found out that Rocket was pregnant. We never found out who her husband was. We never found out who knocked her up, but I assumed it was Icon. Here, we now see her child. It's a boy. We see her son. Her son is like 5 years old or whatever, and then both her and her son were going to see the daddy. When they knocked, I was just like, that's weird. Why would you go see the daddy when you're married? When she left to go visit the daddy, and the daddy opened the door, clearly that was not Icon. That was some random dude. And apparently that's who Rocket married in season 2. That's the guy who we're under the impression had her child. But if the two of them were married, it's unclear why they don't live together. Obviously, they're either separated. Well, they're not separated. They're divorced. If they were married, they're divorced now, because he got his own apartment. She got her own apartment. They co-parent that kid, and she was taking him from her apartment to his apartment. Now, when I found that out, I got a little tight, because I was just like, that's dumb. It just makes more sense for Icon to have been, like her baby daddy, like her husband or whatever. Where did this random dude come from? But then, something else happened. At the end of the episode, like I said before, when Orion had said, oh, I'm still the biological, he said, my anger is still the product of my biological father, and Rocket made that face. Now I kind of feel like Icon did knock her up, but the two of them decided that for whatever reason they couldn't be together. She met that other guy. That other guy agreed to marry her and raise her child. And because the kid has autism. Because that was another thing. The whole scene with the son having autism, at the end of the episode, I thought they were going to roll some credit that says, you know, we at Young Justice and DC, Warner Brothers, HBO Max, we just want to bring awareness to autism. You can donate, you know, for autism research here. There was none of that. So because there was nothing about it, there was nothing significant about the son having autism. I was just kind of like, this whole scene is pointless. It's like, why are we watching a scene with her autistic son and it's not going to go anywhere and it's not going to mean anything? I kind of felt like they just did that for no reason because, you know, especially at the end of the episode when they weren't even trying to bring awareness to it. But then when I thought about it even more, it was just like, wait a minute. The reason why the kid has autism because he is the biological son of Icon. And I feel like that's what's going to happen because it's not going to be as simple as, because Rocket was also trying to avoid the fact that the son has autism. Like she didn't want to acknowledge it. Her being on New Gen, they're not doing a whole thing with her son having autism just for her to change her ways of how she feels about having an autistic child. Like that's not going to happen. Again, because that line was specifically said by Orion, I'm telling you, here goes another prediction, because I was right about the Wally thing. My second prediction is you find out that the boy is really Icon's son, but because Icon and Rocket chose not to be together, she met the next dude, and the next dude decided to help her raise her kid. That's the that's the prediction, and we shall see what happens. 3 more episodes to go for the Rocket arc. So thank you for tuning in. Share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below. Do you think I'm right? Do you disagree with with my theory about the whole thing? As I share your thoughts and we'll talk about it. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Instagram. Definitely on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Much love and appreciation to everybody who's been giving the likes and the reviews, and the viewership on my YouTube channel for my Young Justice videos and my other videos as well. But the Young Justice particular, because the Young Justice videos have been really popping, and I appreciate and love you guys for all that. So thank you for tuning in. For you Marvel fans, we got Moon Knight coming up with a K. We're still doing Moon Knight, and we're still doing the Flash. Well, the Flash is over now. We're on a break, but the last episode is on the channel, and we're waiting for Superman and Lois to return as well as Naomi. Happy Easter to all. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time for some Rocket action on Young Justice. Take care, and about this